Let's start by discussing what the squat is and why it's one of the most important movements to learn to execute well. At its most basic, a squat is a movement that includes full hip and knee flexion and extension, meaning at the bottom of the squat, your knees and hips should be fully bent, and at the top of the squat, your knees and hips should be fully straightened. At the bottom of the position, your ankles will be in full to partial flexion, or dorsiflexion for you movement nerds, and at the top, your ankles will be neutral. Your spine should remain neutral throughout the movement. The squat is one of the most functional movements you can master. A functional exercise is one that carries over into real life. In many cultures around the world, the squat is used as a resting position. Mastering and practicing the squat will help you be able to get off the toilet in your old age, something we should all strive for. It might also help you move all your heavy furniture from one apartment to another without ruining your back. Have you heard the phrase, lift with your legs? That means you should squat when you lift heavy things, or anything really. So let's talk about your squat stance. I follow the philosophy of folks like Dean Somerset and Ryan DeBell, who believe that there is no universal squat stance. Your own personal squat stance will depend greatly on the shape and depth of your hip sockets. Now, you don't need to get an x-ray of your hips to determine your squat stance. Here's what you can do. Get ready to film yourself from the front and the side. Most people are going to feel comfortable and efficient squatting with their feet somewhere between hip and shoulder width apart and their toes either facing forward or facing out to about 30 degrees. So start with your feet at hip width apart and your toes facing forward. Keeping your heels on the ground and your spine neutral. Review the tall and tight tutorial if you haven't yet to understand the neutral spine. Send your hips back and down as low as you can. Pause at the bottom, then drive back up into the standing position. If it helps, feel free to raise your arms out in front of you to help manage your leverage. Do a few reps facing forward to the camera and a few to the side. If your squat felt pretty easy, review your tape. Did you keep your heels down the entire time? Did your hips get lower than your knees? Was your spine neutral for the whole movement? Do your knees track over the second and third toes rather than falling inside the big toe? If not, try again. Bring your feet a little wider than hip width, toes still facing forward, and squat again. Did that feel better or worse than the first time? Try turning your toes out a little and try again. Is that better or worse? Try a little wider. Better or worse? Continue trying different widths and foot angles until you get pretty close to a comfortable and clean squat. Then you can try turning out one foot a little further. Is that better or worse? Turn that foot back in and try the other foot. Better or worse? Try moving one foot back a few inches. Better or worse? Try the other foot back a few inches. Better or worse? Keep playing around and reviewing your video until you find your best squat, then note what that position is. It's okay to be asymmetrical. My best squat stance is about shoulder width apart, with the left foot turned out a little more than the right and back a few inches. Is this because my hip sockets are different depths and angles? Maybe. I don't have the x-rays to prove it. All I know is that this is my most comfortable and efficient stance. I can get the lowest with the best form and the least amount of discomfort. Now that we found your stance, I want to quickly go over your squat form. Your squat videos will have their own cueing, so I'm just going to go over the broad strokes. For any squat, you want to reach your hips back like you're sitting on a chair behind you, rather than just bending your knees and dropping your hips right between your feet. This is an especially important cue for people who feel the front of their knees when they squat. Throughout the movement, you want to spread the floor between your feet as if you could rip the floorboards apart. This is going to help you keep your knees out rather than letting them collapse into the center of the body. This is an extra important note for people who feel discomfort on the inside or outside of their knees when they squat. Finally, drive up into the weight until your hips are directly under your ribs and your back in your tall and tight position. That's the basic squat pattern no matter what type of squat you're doing. The majority of the work should be done by your glutes, aka your butt muscles, and your quads, aka the front of your thighs. You might also feel your core and your upper body if you're holding weight. If you feel your low back or your knees, stop what you're doing and contact me for further coaching. Happy squatting!